Two millennia ago, a singular empire emerged to dominate an astonishing expanse of the known world. This is the sweeping saga of the Roman Empire, a chronicle steeped in relentless ambition, staggering conquests, and a dramatic downfall that continues to intrigue historians and enthrall imaginations. How did a modest city-state nestled along the banks of the Tiber River ascend to unparalleled power, reshaping the ancient world in its image? And, more intriguingly, what forces conspired to unravel this colossus, reducing a seemingly eternal legacy to ruins? The answers lie in a story as complex and monumental as the empire itself. The origins of Rome, shrouded in myth and legend, stretch back to the fabled year of 753 BC. According to ancient tales, it was Romulus alongside his twin brother, Remus, who laid the first stone of the city. The brothers, abandoned as infants, were raised by a she-wolf in the wilds of the Palatine Hill, an image forever embedded in Roman lore. But fate, as it often does, took a dark turn. In a bitter quarrel, Romulus slew Remus, forever marking the city with a fraternal bloodshed that would echo throughout history. Rome, named in his honor, was born from this tragedy. In its early days, Rome was ruled by kings, each one more ambitious than the last. However, this monarchy would not last forever. In 509 BCE, after a reign marked by tyranny, the last of these kings, Tarquin the Proud, was overthrown. The people, hungry for change, cast off their monarch, ushering in a new era, the birth of the Roman Republic. This pivotal moment laid the foundation for a new political structure, one that would not only challenge the very idea of monarchy but also shape the future of Rome for centuries to come. The Roman Republic stood as a remarkable fusion of governance, an intricate balance of democracy, oligarchy, and a finely tuned system of checks and balances. At its core, however, was the Senate, a prestigious body that represented the aristocratic elite, holding immense sway over the fate of the Republic. But while power resided with the few, it was not absolute. The executive realm was divided between two consuls, elected annually to share authority, ensuring no one could seize tyrannical control. This was, on paper, a brilliant safeguard to men holding equal power, preventing the rise of a sole ruler. Yet, beneath this facade of balance, simmered a constant tension. The plebeians, Rome's common people, were often at odds with the patrician class. To give voice to the masses, the tribunes emerged, elected to represent the interests of the plebs. Armed with the powerful veto, they stood as a bulwark against any decisions that threatened the rights of the lower classes. However, despite these safeguards, the Republic was far from peaceful. Social and political tensions between the patricians and plebeians frequently exploded into violent conflicts. Out of these struggles came one of the Republic's most enduring legacies, the 12 Tables. Rome's first codified laws, etched into bronze tablets, became the bedrock of Roman legal tradition. These laws were more than mere rules. They symbolized the hard-won victories of the plebeians, carving out a legal framework that would endure long after the Republic itself had crumbled. The expansion of the Roman Republic truly began to gather momentum in the 4th and 3rd centuries BCE, as Rome steadily stretched its influence across the Italian peninsula. Through a delicate mix of military might and diplomatic savvy, the Romans absorbed neighboring territories, bending them to their will with a calculated blend of caution and cooperation. But Rome's growing power could not go unnoticed, and soon its ambitions clashed with those of other great civilizations. The most formidable of these rivals was Carthage, a maritime powerhouse whose empire spanned the Mediterranean. The confrontation between these two empires culminated in the Punic Wars, a series of 3 brutal and defining conflicts that would shape the destiny of Rome. The Second Punic War, in particular, stands out as a pivotal chapter in this saga. It was during this war that the Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca cemented his place in history. His audacious crossing of the Alps, with a massive army and a contingent of war elephants, remains one of the most remarkable military feats ever executed. The sight of these massive creatures trudging through the icy mountain passes seemed to defy all logic. Despite Hannibal's stunning victories on Italian soil, Rome's resilience proved unyielding. Time and again, the Republic recovered from near devastation, adapting and countering with strategic brilliance. Ultimately, it was Rome that triumphed, securing its dominance across the Mediterranean. Carthage was forced to surrender vast swaths of territory, including strategic holdings in Sicily, Spain, and North Africa, further solidifying Rome's control and its place as the unrivaled power of the ancient world. As Rome's power swelled with each new conquest, so too did its wealth, vast, staggering riches that poured in from the lands it absorbed. Yet, with such prosperity came profound challenges. The spoils of war, particularly the influx of enslaved peoples and newly acquired territories, began to transform Roman society in ways that few could have predicted. While the aristocratic elite reveled in their newfound affluence, the divide between them and the common people widened dramatically. The great estates of the rich worked by slaves rendered the small, independent farms of the plebeians obsolete. Unable to compete with the sheer scale of these aristocratic holdings, countless farmers were driven off their land, forced to abandon their livelihoods. This exodus from the countryside sent waves of displaced citizens into the teeming urban centers of Rome, swelling the ranks of the poor. The cities, already brimming with poverty, became a pressure cooker of discontent. The growing inequality fueled a simmering rage among the plebeians, and what began as individual hardship soon turned into a collective grievance. The urban poor, now a significant political force, began to demand change. Protests and unrest became more frequent, their frustrations magnified by the stark contrast between the opulence of the elite and the squalor in which many Romans now found themselves. This economic inequality didn't just strain the fabric of society, it sparked a political tinderbox, one that would eventually explode into upheaval. The Republic, once seen as a bastion of order and balance, now teetered on the edge of chaos. The growing chasm between the wealthy and the poor set the stage for political upheaval as reformers rose up, challenging the very foundations of Roman governance. The echoes of these struggles would reverberate for centuries to come. The late Roman Republic was a time of seething turmoil, an era defined by internal strife, power struggles, and the rise of military strongmen who challenged the very heart of Roman governance, the Senate. The Gracchi brothers, Tiberius and Gaius, emerged as champions of the oppressed, seeking to rectify the economic disparities that plagued the Republic through radical land reforms. Their vision, however, was met with fierce opposition from the Senate, and what began as a noble cause quickly devolved into violence. The brothers paid the ultimate price for their efforts, their deaths marking a turning point that would forever alter the political landscape. But the tensions didn't end there. The Republic, already teetering on the brink of collapse, was soon plunged into a series of devastating civil wars. In the chaos, ambitious military leaders like Julius Caesar emerged, each vying for control of Rome's future. Caesar, a brilliant and ruthless commander, had garnered fame and immense popularity through his campaigns in Gaul, where his victories not only expanded Roman territory but also solidified the loyalty of his legions. With his army at his back, Caesar became a figure of unrivaled power, a man whose influence stretched far beyond the Senate's grasp. In 49 BCE, Caesar's decision to cross the Rubicon River's seemingly small act was anything but. It was a declaration of war against the Senate, a defiant gesture that would irrevocably alter the course of Roman history. The phrase "the die is cast" would become synonymous with his bold, irreversible decision. The Republic plunged headfirst into civil war, as Caesar's legions clashed with the forces loyal to the Senate. In the end, Caesar's victory was absolute, and he emerged as Rome's supreme ruler, proclaiming himself dictator for life. Yet, even as Caesar's power seemed unshakable, the underlying fragility of the Republic was never more apparent. His assassination in 44 BCE, carried out by a group of senators, including some of his closest allies, was the final, brutal reminder of just how precarious Rome's political system had become. The Republic, shattered by years of conflict and betrayal, was now irrevocably broken, and the rise of empire loomed on the horizon. In the wake of Julius Caesar's assassination, a brutal new power struggle erupted, this time between his adopted heir, Octavian, and his former ally, Mark Antony. The stage was set for one final showdown, a clash that would determine the future of Rome. The decisive Battle of Actium, fought in 31 BCE, was the defining moment of this conflict. Octavian's forces triumphed over Antony and his lover, Cleopatra, effectively crushing any hope of resistance. With this victory, Octavian emerged as the uncontested ruler of Rome, his path to supreme power clear. In 27 BCE, Octavian took a step that would forever reshape Roman history. He adopted the title of Augustus, signaling not just a change of name but the dawn of a new era. As Augustus, he became Rome's first emperor, a title that marked the official end of the Republic and the birth of the Roman Empire. This was the final, irreversible shift from a once democratic system to one dominated by imperial rule. What followed was nothing short of extraordinary. Augustus, through a mix of military genius, political savvy, and careful consolidation of power, ushered in a period of unprecedented peace and stability. Known as the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, this era would span over 2 centuries, during which the empire flourished, expanding its borders and achieving an unprecedented level of prosperity. The legacy of Augustus and the empire he forged would resonate throughout the ancient world, forever altering the course of history. The Republic, with its ideals of shared power and civic duty, was gone, replaced by an empire that would endure for centuries to come. At its zenith, the Roman Empire stood as an unparalleled marvel of governance, engineering, and cultural achievement, an empire whose reach extended across 3 continents, touching every corner of the known world. With a population surpassing 70 million, it was a vast interconnected entity, held together by an intricate web of roads, aqueducts, and a sophisticated network of administrative systems that enabled seamless communication and trade. These feats of infrastructure were not just the backbone of the empire, they were the arteries that kept the lifeblood of Roman society flowing, binding its diverse provinces into a unified whole. Roman law, with its meticulous framework of justice, provided the empire with stability and fairness, laying the groundwork for legal systems that would influence civilizations for centuries. Yet, it was not only the realm of the law that showcased Roman might. The empire's architectural wonders, structures like the colossal Colosseum and the awe-inspiring Pantheon, stood as testaments to its grandeur, enduring symbols of Roman power, artistry, and engineering prowess. These monuments, crafted with unrivaled skill and vision, spoke of an empire that believed in its own immortality. But none of this would have been possible without the indomitable strength of Rome's legions. The discipline of its soldiers, hardened through relentless training and battle, was the empire's military backbone, ensuring its survival and expansion. Equally crucial was the ingenuity of Roman engineers, who revolutionized infrastructure, warfare, and urban planning. Above all, it was the sharp minds of Rome's rulers, the emperors, and officials who governed with cunning and foresight that steered the empire through times of peace and war, prosperity and crisis. The Roman Empire, at its peak, was a monumental achievement in human history, a testament to what could be achieved when governance, innovation, and culture fused into one cohesive force. Beneath the surface of Roman prosperity, however, there lurked the quiet seeds of decline. The empire's dependence on slave labor, while driving its economy in the short term, bred profound inefficiencies. Vast estates worked by slaves stifled innovation, as the economy became increasingly reliant on a system that could not sustain itself forever. As slave labor became more entrenched, the need for technological and agricultural advancements was neglected, leaving the empire vulnerable to stagnation. Meanwhile, political corruption ran rampant, slowly eating away at the fabric of Rome's once robust institutions. The decadence that accompanied imperial luxury and power seen in the excesses of emperors and the splendor of the ruling elite spilled over into every aspect of Roman governance. As the aristocracy indulged in lavish living, the effectiveness of the Senate and other governing bodies diminished, becoming mere shadows of their former selves. What had once been a sophisticated, balanced political system began to rot from within, as bribery, greed, and personal ambition undermined the stability of Roman rule. The divide between the rich and the poor grew ever wider, and with it, the social cohesion that had been the empire's foundation began to unravel. The once thriving middle class dwindled, leaving behind a polarized society on one side, the opulent elite, and on the other, the increasingly impoverished masses. Discontent spread like wildfire, eroding the unity that had held Rome together for so long. In cities where the poor lived in squalor, the echoes of disillusionment grew louder, and across the empire, the once strong sense of Roman identity and pride began to fray. The empire, once united under the ideals of Rome, was now a fractured shell of its former self, teetering on the brink of collapse. The decline of the Roman Empire was not a sudden cataclysm, but rather a slow, grinding process, a delicate unraveling caused by a complex web of both internal and external forces. By the 3rd century CE, the empire found itself besieged on all sides, relentlessly pressured by a host of barbarian invaders. The Goths, Vandals, and Huns pressed against Rome's borders, their raids and invasions chipping away at the empire's once impenetrable defenses. These external threats, though formidable, were only part of the story. Internally, the empire was plagued by a series of debilitating challenges. Political instability became rampant as power struggles and succession crises destabilized leadership. The economy, once the envy of the ancient world, faltered under the weight of overspending, inflation, and the crippling cost of maintaining an empire stretched thin. Meanwhile, Rome's over-reliance on mercenary army soldiers loyal only to their paymasters and not to the empire itself left the state vulnerable to betrayal and disarray. The traditional legions, once a symbol of Roman discipline and might, were no longer the cohesive force they had been in the empire's prime. In a desperate attempt to stem the tide of decline, Emperor Diocletian enacted a bold, though ultimately temporary, solution in 285 CE, divided the empire into two halves, eastern and western, in the hopes of making it more manageable and defensible. The Eastern Roman Empire, with its capital in Byzantium, later Constantinople, thrived under this new structure, its wealth, trade, and strategic position allowing it to endure for centuries. But the Western Roman Empire, with its capital in Rome and later Ravenna, struggled to maintain control. It was battered by internal chaos, external invasion, and economic collapse, setting the stage for its eventual fall in 476 CE. This division marked a clear turning point in the empire's fortunes, but it was not enough to halt the downward spiral of the Western Empire. While the East held firm, the West faltered, and the fate of one of the greatest empires in history was sealed. The sack of Rome by the Visigoths in 410 CE was a harrowing moment that shattered the illusion of Roman invincibility. Led by the relentless Alaric, the Visigoths stormed the city, looting and pillaging, leaving behind a stark reminder of how far the empire had fallen from its former glory. Less than half a century later, in 455 CE, the Vandals followed suit, sacking Rome again, and further emphasizing the empire's growing vulnerability. These raids, each more devastating than the last, served as chilling symbols of the empire's weakening hold on its once mighty capital. But the true final blow to the Western Roman Empire came in 476 CE, when Romulus Augustulus, the last emperor of the West, was deposed by the Germanic chieftain Odoacer. Though Romulus was a mere figurehead, his fall marked the symbolic end of the Western Roman Empire. Odoacer, a barbarian leader, took the imperial insignia and declared himself the ruler of Italy, marking the end of an era that had lasted over 1,000 years. This event, though relatively anticlimactic in its execution, is traditionally viewed as the death knell for the Western Empire. Yet, even as the Western Empire crumbled, the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, continued to endure. Based in Constantinople, it would go on to thrive for another 1,000 years, maintaining Roman traditions, culture, and governance long after the fall of Rome. The Eastern Empire, though geographically and politically distinct from its Western counterpart, stood as a testament to the resilience of Roman civilization, surviving and adapting as the West collapsed into the chaos of the early Middle Ages. The fall of Rome, then, was not the end of the Roman legacy, but rather the beginning of a new chapter in history, one that would carry the influence of Rome into the Byzantine era and beyond. The fall of Rome in 476 CE marked the end of an era, monumental shift in history that seemed to signal the end of a world. Yet, even as the empire crumbled, its legacy lived on, reverberating through the centuries in ways that would shape the future of civilization. Though the Roman Empire as a political entity had fallen, its cultural, legal, and architectural influence continued to resonate across the globe. Roman law, one of the empire's most enduring contributions, became the bedrock of many modern legal systems. The principles of Roman jurisprudence, ideas of justice, property rights, and legal procedure were absorbed and adapted by later civilizations, forming the foundation of legal frameworks in Europe and beyond. In courts today, echoes of Roman legal thought still guide the process of adjudicating disputes, ensuring that justice is served. The Latin language, once spoken throughout the empire, did not die with the fall of Rome. It evolved and adapted over time, giving birth to the Romance languages, Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Romanian languages that continue to connect millions of people around the world. Even in English, Latin's influence is still evident in the thousands of words derived from it, a linguistic link to a distant past that remains woven into our modern vocabulary. Roman architecture and engineering, too, left an indelible mark on the world. The grandeur of Roman buildings, from the aqueducts and roads that still traverse Europe to the monumental structures like the Colosseum and Pantheon, continue to inspire architects and engineers. Roman innovations in construction, like the use of concrete and the development of arches and domes, revolutionized the built environment and laid the groundwork for modern architectural feats. Perhaps most significant of all, Christianity, which had been embraced by Emperor Constantine in the 4th century, emerged from the ashes of the Roman Empire to become one of the dominant spiritual forces in European history. What began as a persecuted faith soon became the unifying religion of the Roman world, and after the fall of the empire, it spread across Europe, shaping not just religious life, but the cultural and moral fabric of the continent. Christianity would not only survive the collapse of Rome, but would ultimately thrive, guiding the course of European history through the Middle Ages and beyond. Thus, while the Roman Empire may have fallen, its legacy endured. The ideas, innovations, and institutions it left behind helped form the very foundation of the modern world, proving that even in its demise, Rome's influence would never truly fade away. The rise and fall of the Roman Empire stands as one of the most profound testaments to the extremes of human ambition and the fragile nature of even the most mighty civilizations. From humble beginnings on the banks of the Tiber River To the height of its power, Rome's achievements were nothing short of remarkable. Its innovations in law, engineering, and governance, coupled with its unparalleled military strength, reshaped the ancient world and left an enduring legacy that continues to influence modern society. The grandeur of its architecture, the sophistication of its legal principles, and the enduring presence of its language all speak to the brilliance of a civilization that once seemed invincible. Yet, as its rise was meteoric, so too was its decline gradual, inevitable, and deeply revealing. The fall of Rome serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of overreach, of the perils of inequality and internal division, and of the fragility that exists even within the most powerful empires. The Roman Empire, vast and seemingly indestructible, eventually crumbled under the weight of its own excesses. The economic inequality, the political corruption, and the ever-widening gap between the elite and the masses, these were the cracks that slowly eroded the foundation of Roman society. The empire's inability to adapt to changing circumstances, to address its internal decay, ultimately led to its collapse. But Rome's story is not merely one of conquest and downfall. It is a reflection of the complex and often contradictory nature of human history. It is a narrative that resonates because it mirrors the enduring challenges that all civilizations face: the balance between power and responsibility, the need for justice and unity, and the delicate equilibrium between growth and sustainability. Rome's rise and fall, in all its glory and tragedy, continues to serve as a cautionary tale for future generations. It reminds us that even the greatest empires, no matter how formidable they may seem, are vulnerable to the forces of time and human nature. The story of Rome, with all its triumphs and failures, is not just an ancient saga, it is a timeless narrative, a reflection of our own enduring complexities. Its legacy, both in its achievements and its mistakes, continues to inspire and challenge us to reflect on our own place in history and the choices we make as we build our future.